The cold wind cut across the barren landscape, carrying a bitter scent of metal and dust. Ethan's boots crunched against the cracked ground as he scanned the horizon. He had followed the distress signal for days, guided by a small, flickering beacon on his wrist. The planet, known to explorers as Vorath 9, was notorious for its hostile terrain and unpredictable weather. Yet the faint signal had pulled him onward like a magnet. Ahead, a twisted shape lay half buried in the sand, a transport ship shattered and smoking. The hull was torn in jagged pieces, and dark streaks marked where metal had been scorched or bent. Ethan's pulse quickened. He had seen shipwrecks before, but something about this one felt urgent. The signal's origin had to be nearby. He tightened the strap of his pack and moved closer, scanning the area carefully. There were no signs of movement at first, only the quiet hiss of wind and the distant groans of the planet's strange wildlife. Then he heard it, a soft, pained voice, barely more than a whisper. "Kill me, quickly." The words were trembling, desperate. Ethan froze. He followed the sound, stepping over debris, and found her. Lyra was lying on the cold metal floor of the wreck, her small body twisted unnaturally. Her skin shimmered faintly in the dim light, pale with the shock of her injuries. Bones protruded beneath torn clothing, and every movement caused her to wince in pain. She looked at him with wide, terrified eyes, glistening under the faint glow of the ship's emergency lights. Ethan's stomach churned, but he forced himself to stay calm. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said gently, kneeling beside her. He glanced around, assessing the damage. "You're hurt badly, but I can help. Just stay still." Her lips trembled, forming the words with difficulty. They will kill me if I live. Then we'll make sure that doesn't happen," Ethan replied firmly. He reached for the blanket covering her, pulling it back slowly. The sight made him wince. Bruises marred every exposed inch of her skin, and some wounds were deep enough to see tissue beneath. Yet despite it all, there was something in her eyes, a spark of intelligence, a glimmer of defiance. Ethan recognized it immediately. She wasn't just a victim. She was a survivor. He carefully lifted her into his arms, mindful of every broken bone, and scanned the wreckage for supplies. The emergency kit on board was minimal, but he found a small compartment with bandages, a med pack, and a vial of pain suppressant. He worked quickly, his hands steady as he cleaned wounds and stabilized fractures. Lyra shivered with each touch, whispering soft pleas for him to stop, but he ignored them. Stopping meant death. As he worked, she tried to speak. "Why, help? Human?" she asked, her voice faint, curiosity mixing with pain. Ethan smiled faintly, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Because no one deserves to die if I can stop it, and because someone has to stand up to those who hurt you." Lyra's eyelids fluttered, heavy with exhaustion. She didn't speak again, but she allowed him to continue. The wind howled through the broken hull, carrying the faint scent of ozone from the damaged ship. Ethan finished wrapping the last bandage, then carefully adjusted her body. "We need to move," he said softly. "It's not safe here." Carrying her across the uneven ground was difficult. Every step had to be measured. A wrong move could break her further. Still, Ethan persisted, drawing on every ounce of strength and focus he had. Around him, Vorath 9's landscape seemed alive with danger. Jagged rocks jutted from the ground like teeth, and distant roars hinted at creatures hiding in the shadows, waiting for the chance to strike. Hours passed as he navigated the alien terrain. Lyra remained silent, though her eyes followed him, observing his every move. She was weak, barely able to lift her head, but Ethan noticed the way she flinched when the wind shifted or a shadow passed. She had survived more than he could imagine, and that resilience inspired him to push harder. By the time they reached a small alcove sheltered by rocky outcroppings, night had fallen. The stars above were brilliant, unfamiliar constellations shimmering in the black sky. Ethan set her down gently, creating a makeshift bed with spare blankets from his pack. He prepared the pain suppressant and helped her sip it, watching her relax slightly as her tension eased. "You should rest," he said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "We'll move again in the morning. There's a place nearby where you can be safe." Lyra's eyes softened, though fear lingered. She whispered, "Safe? They will not find me?" "They won't," Ethan promised. "I'll make sure of it." Sleep came slowly. Ethan remained alert, listening to every sound. The rustle of small creatures, the distant groan of rocks shifting, the whisper of wind through the broken landscape. When he looked at Lyra, fragile and vulnerable, he felt a strange connection. She wasn't just an alien he had found. She was a living reminder of why humans endured, why they fought, why they helped. The next morning, Ethan prepared to continue their journey. He carried her carefully, moving through narrow passes and avoiding obvious hazards. Along the way, he discovered a data drive lodged in the wreckage. Its presence was unusual. Someone had clearly hidden it, intending for it to be found by someone resourceful. He pocketed it, curious about what it contained. As they moved, danger arrived faster than expected. A patrol of mercenaries, likely searching for Lyra, appeared on a ridge ahead. Ethan froze for a moment, then slowly adjusted his stance. He didn't have the firepower to take them on head-on, but he didn't intend to run blindly. Using the terrain to his advantage, he created diversions with small rocks and shadows, slipping through unnoticed. Lyra remained quiet, trusting his guidance even as her body trembled from exhaustion. Eventually, they reached a hidden valley, lush and surprisingly warm compared to the rest of the barren planet. A stream of crystal-clear water ran through it, and strange alien flora provided natural cover. Ethan set Lyra down near the water, letting her drink slowly while he scanned the area for threats. Lyra's curiosity grew. She whispered questions in her broken but melodic language, asking about the humans, about Ethan, about why he had risked so much for her. Ethan answered as best he could, explaining that humanity thrived because people cared for one another, because they believed in helping others even when the odds were against them. Hours later, Lyra began to show small signs of recovery. She could move her hands more freely, and the tension in her muscles eased slightly, yet her eyes remained haunted by fear and memories of the attack. Ethan realized that her recovery would be as much mental as physical. Trust had to be earned, one careful step at a time. The sun began to set, casting a soft orange glow across the valley. Ethan looked at Lyra, fragile yet resilient, and felt a surge of determination. He had found her when no one else could, and he would ensure she survived, no matter the cost. As night fell, he lay beside her, keeping watch. Forath 9 was a dangerous place, full of threats, but together they had a chance. Ethan whispered a promise into the cold night air, hoping she could hear him. "You won't face this alone." Not ever. The wind howled around them, but inside their small shelter there was a fragile sense of safety. Lyra, exhausted, drifted into a deep, healing sleep, and Ethan's mind raced with plans for the journey ahead. Somewhere out there, her people awaited, and he would lead her to them. Every obstacle, every threat, every shadow on the horizon would be faced with human ingenuity, courage, and unyielding will. And as he looked at her sleeping face, Ethan realized something profound. Humanity's strength was not in weapons or technology alone. It was in compassion, in the courage to help even when hope seemed lost. Lyra's survival was more than just saving a life. It was a testament to the indomitable spirit of those who refused to give up, no matter how bleak the odds. The first part of their journey was over, but the true challenge had only just begun. Together they would face the dangers of the galaxy, and together they would survive. The first light of dawn painted the valley in soft gold and rose. Ethan lifted Lyra gently, careful not to disturb her fragile body. She stirred, blinking sleep from her eyes, and offered him a faint, tentative smile. Though weak, there was a fire in her gaze, a determination to survive that matched Ethan's own. They moved slowly through the valley, avoiding open areas where predators or mercenaries might spot them. Ethan carried her most of the way, but when terrain allowed, she insisted on walking, using him as support. Every step reminded him of the stakes. Lyra's life depended on his skill, his judgment, and his unwavering focus. As they ascended a ridge, Ethan stopped to survey the landscape. In the distance, faint structures rose above the horizon, tall, crystalline spires that glimmered in the sunlight. It was clear that this was Lyra's homeland, the place she had been fleeing to. Relief washed over her face, but it was tempered with fear. She knew the warlord's forces might still be in pursuit. "We're close," Ethan whispered. "You'll be safe soon." Lyra nodded, gripping his arm with surprising strength. They will come," she said. "If they see me." Her voice trailed off and fear shadowed her features. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then we'll make sure they don't." The journey became more dangerous as they approached the outer edges of the alien city. Strange sentries, patrolling robotic creatures, and natural defenses surrounded the perimeter. Ethan moved with precision, studying patterns and timing their crossings carefully. Each step forward was measured, deliberate, a silent challenge to the forces hunting them. When they finally reached a hidden entrance, a narrow tunnel carved into the cliffside, Lyra hesitated. "They trust you?" she asked quietly. "They will," Ethan said. "If you're with me, I'll show them you're safe. But you have to trust me completely." She nodded, and together they slipped inside. The tunnel opened into a verdant courtyard, the walls covered in luminescent vines. The air was thick with the scent of alien flowers and the hum of energy fields, a stark contrast to the desolation outside. Lyra's people emerged cautiously, their eyes wary, weapons held but not raised. Ethan set Lyra down gently. Her legs trembled, but she stood leaning on him for support. The alien leader, a tall figure with sharp features and glowing eyes, stepped forward. Silence filled the courtyard as the leader studied Ethan. "She is alive," Ethan said, voice steady. "I brought her here. She is safe." The leader's eyes softened slightly, scanning Lyra with a mix of concern and relief. Then slowly the tension in their stance eased. Ethan had demonstrated courage and care, qualities that mattered above all else to these people. Lyra's survival was now assured, and the trust she had in him transferred to her people. Lyra sank to her knees, tears welling in her eyes. "You saved me," she whispered. Thank you." Ethan shook his head. "No, you saved yourself. I just made sure no one stopped you." Even as relief spread through the courtyard, danger was not entirely gone. Ethan knew the warlord's forces were still out there, likely regrouping and planning their next strike. He could not let his guard down. Over the next few days, Ethan helped Lyra recover further. He treated her injuries, helped her regain strength, and trained her in basic defensive strategies. Lyra, in turn, shared knowledge about her people's technology, culture, and history. Ethan listened intently, fascinated by the depth of her world. One night, Lyra confided in him. "I never thought anyone would come for me, my people. They are strong, but they are divided." They would have hesitated too long. Ethan nodded. "Sometimes it takes someone from outside to remind people what matters. You mattered. And that's why I came." The bond between them grew, forged not only by shared danger but by mutual respect and understanding. Lyra's trust in humans had been fragile, but through Ethan's actions it became unshakable. Then, news arrived. Scouts reported movement near the city's outskirts. The warlord's forces were approaching faster than expected. Panic rippled through the population, but Ethan remained calm. He had faced impossible odds before and had always found a way. Now he would do it again, not just for Lyra, but for her entire people. Ethan organized a defensive plan. Using the city's natural barriers, energy fields, and advanced technology, he created a series of traps and safe zones. He coordinated with the alien soldiers, teaching them to combine their strengths with his strategies. Every detail mattered. One mistake could mean disaster. The attack came at dawn. The warlord's forces surged across the landscape, weapons gleaming and engines roaring. But they were unprepared for the defenses Ethan had orchestrated. Traps immobilized vehicles, energy fields repelled attackers, and clever tactics forced the enemy into confusion. Lyra watched, awestruck, as Ethan moved with precision and courage. He was not the strongest or the fastest, but his mind worked like a weapon, outsmarting the enemy at every turn. She realized then what she had always suspected. Humans were capable of greatness beyond measure. Hours passed in a tense, chaotic battle. Despite the intensity, Ethan never lost focus. He ensured Lyra's safety while directing the defense, and gradually the tide turned. The warlord's forces, exhausted and disoriented, began to retreat. By nightfall, the city was secure, its people safe. Lyra approached Ethan, her expression a mix of gratitude and admiration. "I do not know how to repay you," she said softly. Ethan smiled, though he was tired beyond measure. "You don't have to. Just survive. That's enough." In the aftermath, the city's leader invited Ethan to stay as an honored guest. He refused politely, but accepted a place among the defenders, knowing the galaxy held more dangers and more people who might need his help. Lyra remained by his side, her injuries healed, her trust in humans solidified, and her respect for Ethan evident in every glance. As they stood together on a balcony overlooking the city, Ethan reflected on everything that had happened. He had come to Vorath 9 following a faint signal, expecting perhaps to find danger, but not to discover courage, resilience, and a bond that transcended worlds. Humanity, he realized, was not just about survival. It was about compassion, intelligence, and the courage to act when it mattered most. Lyra turned to him, her eyes bright with determination. You showed me something I almost forgot. Humans, they can be heroes, Ethan chuckled softly. Not just humans. Anyone willing to fight for what's right. You fought too, Lyra. You survived when it seemed impossible. That's the real heroism. For the first time in days, Lyra smiled freely, no fear shadowing her face. Around them, the city was alive, the people safe, and the stars above shone like beacons of hope. Ethan knew that their journey was not over. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and threats yet to come, but for now they had survived together, proving that courage, intelligence, and compassion could overcome even the most impossible odds. And as the wind of Vorath 9 whispered through the crystalline towers, Ethan realized something profound. Saving Lyra had been just the beginning. The human spirit, resilient, clever, and compassionate, was a force capable of bridging worlds, forming alliances, and confronting darkness wherever it arose. Together, he and Lyra would face whatever came next, their bond a testament to the power of courage and trust across the stars. The night settled over the city, calm and peaceful. Lyra rested, fully recovered, while Ethan kept watch, ready for whatever might appear on the horizon. The first battle was won, but the journey continued, and in the quiet he whispered a promise not just to her, but to himself. No matter the danger, no matter the odds, he would stand firm, as a human, as a protector, as a force for hope. In the end, it was not just survival that mattered. It was what they did with that survival, the choices, the courage, and the compassion that defined them. And on this small alien world, humanity had proven its strength once more.